Hello, this is Olmec talking to you. I am here to refute the stupid claims of Clyde Winters. First, Clyde Winters does not look like an Olmec. He just is a fat American. Here is the real statue, compared to Clyde. His face would have to be very distorted to look Olmec. Fat face is not enough. He claims to have anthropology and archaeology as his field of expertise. But his curriculum vitae at Governor State University, a small community college, says he studied sociology and history for a bachelor degree. Social science and special education for master's degrees. And a doctorate in educational psychology. He knows how to brainwash his students. But he knows nothing of anthropology, linguistics or archaeology. Clyde likes to show Yucatec Maya sculptures, as proof that the Maya did not look like the Olmec. The Maya peoples constitute a diverse spectrum of the Native American people of southern Mexico and northern Central America. The term Maya is a convenient collective designation to include the peoples of the region, who share some degree of cultural and linguistic heritage. However, the term embraces many distinct populations, societies, and ethnic groups, who each have their own particular traditions, cultures, historical identity, and looks. You cannot claim to represent all Maya peoples with Yucatec Maya statues. Maya are also Aztecan, Yucatecan, Cholan, Canjobalan, Chujean, Mamean, Quichean, Pocom, etc. Let me introduce you to some of my Maya stone children with my broad features. Essentially, Clyde is full of shit. And those that think he is honest are fools. Very entertaining.
This is typical of the shady claims and dishonesty of Clyde Winters. He makes a claim that researchers state that 75% of Mexicans are of African descent and gives as his source a genetic study in 2000. mtDNA affinities of the peoples of north-central Mexico, in the American Journal of Human Genetics by Lance Green and others. But that study actually only found 4.5% of the population with African ancestry. It mentioned, in passing, a non-scientific article authored by Jamila Mohammed that had mentioned the possibility of 75%. She in turn was quoting an Afro-Latina activist scholar from New York by the name of Miriam Jimenez Roman, not a geneticist. African ancestry is pretty diffuse, but it is found in very low amounts in most populations except where slavery had a strong presence. The vast majority of African admixture is in the urban mestizo areas, not the indigenous populations, except for the Veracruzan coast and some small populations in Guerrero and Oaxaca. The predominant admixture is indigenous and European. Natives are not looking more African because of admixture. If anything, they are looking more European than their indigenous forefathers. And that is not the case in places like Tlapa and the Huichol.
Okay, and there's an ancient book from Mexico. It's called the Book of Shumayel. And in the Book of Shumayel, this is a book written by the Maya Indians. They make it clear that the gods were stonecutters, the jaguar, and the birds.
I went through the entire book of Chilambalam of Chumayel and found no mention of a stonecutter god. This is another case of plot fiddling.
An indigenous civilization is a civilization that is supposed to have occurred on its own in a particular place. But no researcher recognizes the Olmecs as homegrown. Let me read a couple of quotes from some of the major books dealing with the Olmecs. In the Olmec World, Ritual and Rulership, edited by Curl and Tate on page 65, we find the following statement. Olmec culture, as far as we know, seems to have no antecedents. No material models remain for its monumental construction and sculptures, and the ritual acts captured in small objects.
From Tate Carolyn, carolyn.tate@ttu.edu. Subject, Olmec antecedents. It depends on how we define Olmec. In that statement I used the term at its broadest to refer to any culture of the initial formative period in Mesoamerica. I did not mean to refer to the Gulf Coast Olmec exclusively. Antecedents to Gulf Coast Olmec art and ritual include
Nixtamalización,
corn preparation,
Oaxaca,
Pacific Coast, earliest mounds, Pacific Coast, earliest ball court,
Hershey, Oaxaca,
Pacific Coast or
Paso de la Amada, Chiapas,
Pacific Coast, earliest evidence of social stratification,
Paso de la Amada, Chiapas,
Pacific Coast, Earliest use of jade axes in a ritual deposit.
El Manatí, Veracruz.
Over 36 miles inland. A good source for most of this information is Susan Toby Evans, Ancient Mexico and Central America.
Michael Cole, writing in Regional Perspectives on the Olmecs, 1989, observed that, on the contrary, the evidence, although negative, is that the Olmec style of art and Olmec engineering ability suddenly appeared full-fledged from about 1200 BC.
Clyde selectively quotes Michael Coe from 1989, yet ignores Michael Coe in 1995 in the very book he co-authored with Carolyn Tate, which Clyde just quoted. From that same book, biologically, the Olmec were Native Americans whose Ice Age ancestors entered the New World from northern Asia via the Bering Strait land bridge. This may come as a surprise to readers familiar with recent sensationalist claims that the Olmecs were Egyptians, Phoenicians, West Africans, Chinese, or even refugees from sunken continents. Scholars rightly dismiss such ideas as outlandish fairy tales, and will continue to do so until archaeologists uncover at least one Old World artifact or human skeleton in an Olmec archaeological site. A verified archaeological find of this sort would be truly revolutionary, but none has appeared, and it is unlikely any will. The earliest evidence of human occupation in the Olmec heartland is found on the natural levees of the Rio Bari, an old silt-ebbed stream near
La Venta, Tabasco,
with farmers settled as early as 2200 BC. Similar villages occurred along all the river valleys of the Olmec heartland in the following centuries. Although they appear to lack the monumental art and architecture, social hierarchies, and complex institutions that characterize Olmec culture, these villages clearly provided the local population base for the later Olmec expansion. By the end of the pre-Olmec period, San Lorenzo and
La Venta
were growing faster than other communities, and fragments of basalt monuments in some of the deepest levels at San Lorenzo suggest that the Olmec sculptural tradition existed prior to 1200 BC.
Mary Pye, writing in Olmec Archaeology in Mesoamerica, makes it clear after the discussion of the pre-Olmec civilizations of the Mokaya tradition that these cultures contributed nothing to the rise of the Olmec culture. Pye wrote, "The Mokaya appear to have gradually come under Olmec influence during Shurla times, and to have adopted Olmec ways. We use the term Olmecization to describe the processes whereby independent groups try to become Olmecs, or to become like the Olmecs." Pye makes it clear that it was around 1200 BC that Olmec civilization rose in Mesoamerica. She continues, "Much of the current debate about the Olmecs concerns the traditional mother cultural view. For us, this is still a primary issue. Our data from the Pacific Coast shows that the mother culture idea is still viable in terms of cultural practices. The early Olmecs created the first civilization in Mesoamerica. They had no peers, only contemporaries."
He completely misrepresents what Clark and Pye say.
Mokaya
In the Olmec area, Olman interacted for 1,000 years. Beside Winter's uses refers to the last phase interaction. You can see this on page 243. Pye does not say that it was around 1200 BC that Olmec civilization rose, and he omits the rest of the paragraph that contradicts his claims, pages 243 to 244. At the beginning of the early formative Vara phase 1700 to 1500 BC, the
Mokaya
at the
Soconusco
were clearly independent of other peoples of Mesoamerica. Early forms of rank society, or simple chiefdoms, evolved in the Pacific Coast region, and these institutions were quickly adopted by neighboring peoples, including those living in Olman, what is usually called the Olmec heartland. There is clear archaeological evidence of early contact between the peoples of the Pacific Coast and those of Olman in pre-Olmec times, most apparent in ceramic assemblages and the types of obsidian imported into each region. The
Mokaya's
impact on the first villagers of Olman remains to be determined, but we think it was significant. Creation of this first stratified society involved the forging and crystallization of social, political, and religious institutions that became the hallmarks of Mesoamerica itself. As with all historical entities and cultural configurations, this was not creation ex nihilo, but from pre-existent matter. The Olmecs clearly were influenced by their predecessors and neighbors, such as the
Mokaya,
in significant ways, but they also created essentially new institutions on their own, and for this reason they hold the founding position in Mesoamerican history. Once the Olmecs had devised hierarchical forms of social and political life, their continuing interactions with their more distant neighbors served to impart these beliefs and practices to others who, for reasons of personal advantages, adopted them.